Well, hey everybody, and welcome back to the Four Strings Drummer, the channel that's all about ukuleles. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you how I go about addressing sharp fret ends. The fret ends will stick out a little bit, and that's something that it becomes very uncomfortable pretty quickly. And lots of times, some instruments will come like that, unfortunately, and this is sort of a curse of less expensive instruments. And you don't have to put up with that. It's not really that difficult to make an instrument a lot more playable and comfortable to play. And basically all it takes is a little bit of file work along the edge here. And I'll show you how I go about that. You can use almost any kind of file realistically. Something small, about that sort of size, you can see that's about right. It's nice and small, you can work away with it. This particular file is one that's actually set up specifically for doing fretwork. You can see it's triangular, and one of the cool things with this is it has what's called a safe edge on it, and I'm not sure if that really shows up or not, but along here, I'm just going to, yeah, you can kind of see as I flash it in the light, this has no file on it along the edge, so this is just nice and smooth along here, and I'll show you why that's important later. This I've had for years. I got this from Stuart McDonald. That's a great company if you're ever ordering things to repair instruments, or if you're like if you need new frets, or you're doing any kind of replacement of parts. Stuart McDonald is a company that I've dealt with for a long time. They're great. Anyway, they have all these special Lutherie tools for doing work on instruments. Okay, so here's what I do. What I would suggest is, particularly if your instrument has a glossy top, I would put something on here. Even if it's not glossy, I would put a little piece of tape on here. The other thing, if it was a more expensive instrument and this was longer, this is a soprano, so it doesn't come back very far. You can see here, you know how some of them, they come down almost right to the sound hole. I would put a mask on that, something like a piece of cardboard, and then what I normally do is I just tape it directly onto the top so that I'm not scratching the instrument as I'm working on it here. It doesn't take much to slip and scratch something. Okay, so just consider that. This one's just got a little bit of an overhang here. This instrument actually is one that I'm repairing for a friend. She has a hound dog, and Louie sat on this one, so you can kind of see the neck joint's a little hoop. So poor old Louie. Anyway, I'm gonna glue that one back up for her. But here's how I do the fretwork. I just run it on an angle. I'm just gonna turn this way so you can get maybe a little bit better idea. So I kind of run it on an angle, whatever that is, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, something like that. Zip it right along there. You just run it back and forth. Try and get a few frets together. You don't have to hit them all, but if you get 4 or 5 frets at a time, you can just kind of work your way along like that until it's relatively smooth. I can still feel it a little bit down here. This needs a little bit more work. Something like that. Okay, I won't do the whole job on video here. I don't want to bore you, but anyway, that's sort of how I go about that part of it. And that just takes the edge of this off. If you don't, like here, let me just show you. This is how I test this. If I get an instrument, I take a pencil, and this one's great because it's black and it kind of shows up more. But I just run it along. Hear it? That's how awful this is. Okay, and that's what would happen to your finger over time. Okay, so you can kind of see that. So I do this back and forth like that on that sort of 45-degree angle. And then what I do, in order to get rid of any kind of burrs that may develop along either side here of the fret, as I'm working it back and forth this way, you kind of get little burrs along there. I take my file and I just put the safe edge down, so the bottom of the triangle down, and I put that sort of corner of the triangle right up against the fret, and then what I do is I just kind of roll it across the end of the fret like that. Okay, I go one way, and then I go to the other side of the fret, and I go the other way. Okay, and that takes out any kind of burrs Oh, just beautiful. And now your finger will just easily slide back and forth across that. Okay, now some people will also say, well, I don't worry about it because I don't play up and down on the fretboard. I'm pretty much just, playing down here. Don't forget, when you're strumming, lots of times you're up here too, right? So your thumb is getting chewed up by these frets that stick out here on the end. So it's important that you do this, and don't be too afraid of it. Just take your time. Don't go too crazy. Don't go too fast. And it doesn't take long until this is all nice and smooth and easily played. So one of the things I do here, as I mentioned, is I put a little bit of tape, or I put a masking piece of cardboard there. The other thing I do, if I'm doing that rolling technique to get rid of the burrs, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll tape off the frets like this. Because even though this has a safe edge, sometimes, depending, on how hard you're pushing or what the fretboard is made out of, if you keep pushing on that, you could end up with a little bit of wear, like an indentation more than actual file wear. It's just from kind of pushing on it. So what I do is I just take a little piece of tape, I put it on either side of the fret, and I would do I'll just show you, I just kind of do my rolling technique, right? And then all I do is I just zip, I pull these up, I move it down to the next fret, and I put them back down again, zip, 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 rip them up, put them down onto the next fret, zip, zip, and you're done with that part. Obviously, this involves taking the strings off your instrument when you're doing the rolling technique on the end of the frets. If you're just kind of, you just need to kind of buff them a little bit, it's only sticking out a little bit, you can get away with just kind of pulling the strings back a little bit and just being a little bit extra cautious with it. One of the things that I also do on this side of the instrument is I'll run a piece of tape the full length of the neck a lot of times. And the reason for that is that it will, I'll do that actually on both sides, but the reason I do that is that I'm not going to end up scratching. Again, if there's a nice gloss finish on the neck itself underneath there, let's say that was a nice glossy finish, you don't want to scratch that. The other thing this will do is it will also save your fret markers. Let me just pull that back and show you. See the fret marker there? So on more expensive instruments, these are actually inlaid. So they just drill a little hole, and then it looks like a little plastic rod, and they just insert that, and then they cut it off. So it won't damage it as much, but on a less expensive instrument, those might just be painted on, so you don't want to wear those off. So I would suggest just putting a piece of tape along there while you're doing your filing work. All right? Just something that'll make your instrument a lot more playable, and when you're changing your strings, it's a quick thing to do, and like I say, if you're careful, you can do a fair amount of it with the strings even on it as well. Okay, that's it for today, folks. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop them into the comment section. Until I see you next time, keep smiling, keep strumming, and have fun. Bye for now.